Triple Play Fantasy Baseball coming at you on a Thursday afternoon. I love it. The sun is still out. The birds are still chirping. People are walking all across my street. It's a nice time to be alive. It's a nice time to be talking baseball. Of course, joined by the doc to my left. There we go. I got it right this time.
I don't know. It looks like my right.
I don't know. I always get it the wrong way, so I'm happy I got it right. What's up? How you doing this afternoon, man?
Doing good. A nice little work break to get in and talk some baseball. So what better way to spend your lunch?
Yeah, and I'm glad your job has that flexibility. Obviously, with me teaching, I have the summer flexibility to do this, but your job definitely coming in clutch right now. Especially talking about clutch. I got to introduce the man at the bottom of the screen here. I almost got it. But this man, we welcome in a man that is the starting pitcher of the Robins, the commissioner of the Hillcrest Softball League, the 2019 FSWA Baseball Writer of the Year, the owner of the 2020 Article of the Year, 5-time nominated, a Tout Wars champion, writer at Fangraphs, CBS and Rotoballer. If that's not enough, he's part of Labor, host of the Beat the Shift podcast, and the creator of the ATC Projections. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Met, the Crouching Cohen, Hidden Dragon, the man, the myth, the legend that is Ariel Cohen. How's it going, my friend?
Oh, thank you so much. That was quite an introduction. Wow. Thank you, guys.
Hey, man, we're really pumped to have you. I know we were talking a little bit pre-show. I have to give a shout out to Avi Goldstein, who I was on his show on Tuesday. And he's like, you got to bring in that softball stuff in there because he's very familiar with you and the league and that you pitch and everything like that. He said he hit 800 against your team and that they took it to you guys a little bit. You've been playing for quite a long time, though, right?
Yeah, well, I wasn't pitching those days when he hit against us. That was a different pitcher. I think I was the shortstop back then during those seasons. Yeah, I became a pitcher later on in my olden days, close to 40 now. But yeah, it was fun playing Avi. I remember playing him well. His team was very good, and our team was good too. I think we squared off every year, and it was a great show every time.
He showed me that you guys had like a YouTube channel where you were doing post-game interviews and stuff too. Like you guys are legit. Like our softball leagues around here like don't do anything like that.
Well, my brother was nice enough to film an entire season, and I think I posted the whole thing on YouTube. If you can somehow find that channel of the Hillcrest Softball League, and yeah, we have literally the whole season. I played either shortstop or third base that season, and we had a good one. We finished, I don't know, third place, and we made the playoffs, and we had a run. But that was great. It's always great to watch you on tape. I have a guy who, if I play against him now, he tapes all his games. So I get little snippets if I play him of me pitching or throwing or batting or whatever. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I'm going to look for that YouTube channel. It's going to be what I pregame to next time I go out.
Speaking of Avi Goldstein, I popped him up on the screen. He had to make
sure. His brother is a great player. Actually, his brother played for my team all the years. He played on the Robins, which is my team. We won 2 championships with him, 1 championship without him. Yeah, great player. Brother, great hitter. Probably more power than you, Avi. Not as good a glove, and you got a better batting average probably, but good power hitter, your younger brother.
Doc, I'm learning that we got to go to Detroit and play in this baseball league, this softball league, because it sounds like
Let's do it. I have PTO. Hey, New York's even closer. We can take the train up there.
I love it. Well, of course, we're here to talk about softball, but we're also here to talk about a lot of other great stuff. And that is the ATC projection system and second half predictions. So a fun-filled all-star weekend has come to a close. Time to get back to business at hand. That is the fantasy baseball grind. And as we get into that second half, we want to take a look at some of the projections as far as not usually necessarily using Ariel's system, but just some guys he might like in the second half. But not just that, we want to look at how he makes his projections at the beginning of the season to begin with. So without further ado, let's dive into this ATC projection system. And I got to know, Ariel, how did you get started making projections in the first place?
I was playing fantasy baseball, for a number of years since college and, playing home leagues at my office, at a local synagogue. And I don't know. I'm a numbers guy, and I got to start somewhere to tell me how good a player is, and what projection system to use. I didn't know which one to use. There was several available out there on the internet, so I just grabbed them all, and I came up with some formula to combine them. And that was the start of the ATC projections. The ATC is not a standalone projection system. It's an aggregation model where I take a number of projections and I somehow average them, not a straight average. I very smartly study them, which there are some projections that are better for homers. There are some projections that are very good for pitcher strikeouts. Not every projection is worth using for a certain statistic. So I've done historical analysis to see which ones work, and I combine them, and that comes up with a very, very good projection system, which been ranked #1 the last couple of years.
I like that. I like that. Throw the flex in there. #1 over the last couple of years. I love it. I love it. So your projection system, I guess, answering my next question, what makes it different from the other projection systems? The fact that you combine multiple projection systems, what makes it so great. It's not just looking at one thing that one heavily weighs more towards or other thing like that. That's what kind of makes yours different, you'd say?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very similar algorithm to what Nate Silver does for his political forecast. Like if you look at his presidential race, right, he doesn't just say, well, the Rasmussen poll, they're the best, let's just use them, that's it. No, what he does is he takes Rasmussen and he takes YouGov and he'll take a Fox News poll and an ABC News poll, and he'll figure out which ones in which states have the most credibility, which ones are, it could be very different, right? It could be very different in each state, very different for each polling outfit. And he finds a way to combine them. And that overall total is a better predictor than any one of itself. The other analogy I use is I do a lot of hurricane modeling at my office right now. And if you've ever seen the projection of a 3 and 5 day cone of the storm, like coming up, and there's here's where 3 days and here's a range of outcomes. Or if you've ever seen the spaghetti models where here's this track, here's this track, here's this track, but then we have a dotted line of where we think it's going to go. It's very similarly done. You take the different wind speeds from the different models, you take the different temperature from the different models, the wave heights from the different models, and there's a way to aggregate them. The European model is a very, very good hurricane model that gets the most weight, and things like that. And that just makes the best average track. And you'll see if you take that dotted line of the combination of all the different hurricane models, over time, that will be the best path to follow. If you're a betting man, you want to bet the average, that's the right betting path. You don't want to just take any one model and say, I like that one. You want to use the wisdom of the crowds. And that's what I do at ATC. And by golly, it really does work.
So Eric's a betting man. Eric loves to talk betting. Do you use your projection models to do any type of betting or anything like that? I know it's not necessarily something I was put on the show sheet, but I am curious. Just do you use that to your advantage for trying to make bets?
Well, I mean, I'm not a gambler. I don't do DFS or anything. I don't do prop bets. I should say I rarely do prop bets.
Prop bets are where the money's at, baby.
Yeah. I mean, very often, if I see there's a team that's given, let's say, 3-1 odds on winning the division, and I think it's more like 2-1, I'll bet on that. But no, I play in high stakes leagues, so I am putting down a couple $1,000s on season long. But I don't do individual bets because, again, the ATC is about betting in the average. What was that?
Oh, I don't know.
The ATC is betting in the average, so I'm there to look at not just one item, at a lot of items, and when you're doing it over a whole season, that's the way to do it. Okay,
so then I guess the last question I do want to ask about the ATC projection system is, what goes strictly into making your projection system? Again, you pull these other projection systems, but is there more than that than just kind of averaging out the projection systems? Like, how do you go about that?
So that is the general tenet is the averaging. I mean, in terms of what I actually do is it's historical analysis, it's regressions. I'm regressing on what system performed the best on the own, and it's not just taking the best system. Sometimes a system gives good information and you may never use it on its own. It may be the worst system, but it provides some different information, and in combination with it, I'm getting to a lot of math stuff there, but there's good historical ways and there's good regression ways and math ways to statistically model what a minimum bias estimation is.
And I was actually going to ask, speaking of bias, like, obviously you have the numbers and it's mathematical, but you have players you like that maybe have done well for you in the past, or players that have burned for you. Is it hard to kind of take away your personal feelings when creating this model?
I mean, personal feelings on the player?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the model doesn't care about feelings. The model doesn't judge that. It takes, math to do it. Whether I believe the model or not for a particular player, that may or may not be the case. I mean, projections are not without flaws. If there's a rookie, it doesn't really capture rookies that well. Rookies sometimes behave very differently in the majors and the minors. What if somebody has an injury that you don't know about, or or I should say the model doesn't know about? It's not going to reflect that. What if something happened last year? I don't know. I remember one year, Adam Dunn, I heard his daughter had cancer. He had a terrible year that year. He was so worried about it. The following year, models, thought, I guess he's down and decline. But I knew that, I think there's a rebound because he was just down last year for other reasons that was not in the model. And I bid on Adam Dunn. He had 40 home runs that year. So, you have to know what the blind spots of the models are. But no, the model is automated. I don't put feeling into the model. I don't put my favorite players. I put an algorithm there.
So then I was going to kind of build and then ask, but I guess you kind of answered that. If your model spits out something that you disagree with, you don't go in and make a manual change to it. Like you said with Adam Dunn and the cancer thing, the next year, if it's spitting out that he's going to do poorly and you think he's going to do better, you don't make some adjustments in the system to boost him a little bit.
Yeah, the only change I'll make, though, is if I know in spring training, like because of the nature that I'm pulling data from other systems, there's a lag in the data. So if I know a player is hurt, or I know a player is going to be sent to the minors, but the at-bats don't reflect that, I will manually adjust that because that's information that's a lag. But I don't put my feeling of, this guy's really a much better power hitter. I don't adjust that. Now,
Gotcha.
when I play fantasy, then I do adjust it, and then I calculate what I should pay off of that adjustment. But for the ATC projections, I don't want to do that, right?
That makes sense. And again, that's why ATC has been one of the best over the last few years with pulling all these different projection systems and not putting feelings into it. And no, I think it's great. And it's a very useful tool for a lot of fantasy players that are looking to not have, 20 different projection systems that they're looking at, and where some are going to be this and some are going to be that. You have the average from all of them, which is fantastic.
And not only that, I'll add to that, besides the average that you get, I just introduced this year volatility metrics. And you can get what a standard deviation around the average is and what a skew is. There's some projections for players that all the projections are really, really alike. Like 30 homers, 30 homers, 30 homers, 30 homers. That's a very low variance player. I'm more sure that that's his true value. There's like very little parameter risk. Different projections all agree. But for some players, 20 stolen bases, 24 stolen bases, 18 stolen bases, 27, they're all over the place. For those, I indicate that this is a high variance player. I give the standard deviation, and that there's a little bit more risk to the player profile. I also have something called skew. Skew is very interesting because for some players, you have a lot of projections around a certain point, but there's one lower. And that's pulling the average a little bit down, even though the bulk of projections are on top. That would be skewed. Negative, right? Because you have that one outlier below. And it turns out that based on my studies, that you can actually give more credit to a negatively skewed player, that they'll actually outperform their projection because that one projection is probably wrong. Same thing on the flip side. If you have one outlier high, you can probably toss that and get a better projection. So you'll see a skewed positive result on ATC. And you can even do better than it's not just an average you're getting. Now I'm giving you descriptive, how variable, how skewed it is, how skewed are the projections. So there's a lot of good dimension you can get from doing an ATC method, and every little bit gives you an edge.
And where can they find the ATC projections?
The best place to find it is on Fangraphs. If you go to the Fangraphs main site, there's a projections tab on the top. Scroll down and just select ATC.
I love it. And just to put it in context, if I were to say after we finish recording, you know what, I'm going to make a projection system, how long would that take me to do? Assuming that I have your level of intelligence, how long would it take me?
I mean, to make your own standalone projection system, you can do it right away. Question is, how good will it be? Yeah, I mean, if you know what you're doing and you know how to relate things, and you get the best way to differentiate yourself in a projection system is to get some data that's meaningful, but nobody else knows about. It's hard to get, but it's out there. You never know.
Well, I do want to look into your projections a little bit because we're going to talk about players in the second halves. Now that we're in the second half of the season with these second half predictions, and obviously you can't predict injuries. You had Trout and Acuna near the top of your hitter projections, of course, and those guys obviously are not going to reach it because of injuries. But someone I did want to point out, actually a couple guys, Juan Soto right now in his 55% ground ball rate, you have him finishing near 39 home runs that your model spit out. Do you think that is going to right itself over the course of the season, or do you feel that this might kind of be a low power season for Juan Soto?
Yeah, I mean, with Juan Soto, I've noticed the same thing with his ground ball rate. In fact, actually, recently in July, his ground ball rate went all the way up to 63%, which is terrible. His homer to fly ball rate has been up this month, but down overall for the year. His exit velocity has been up this year. If you're looking at him in totality, I think that last year was probably an outlier high. I don't think he's really a 40 home run hitter, even though the ATC projection said so. He had a 36 homer to fly ball ratio last year, which is very high for him. He's much, much further down. So I think he's probably closer to about a 30 home run level type player. And most other projection systems rest of season forward agree. So I think he hits, let's call it 14 to 16 homers for the rest of the season. So he won't quite make that 39 homer projection. It'll probably end up closer somewhere in the 20s.
And I know he was talking about that the home run derby he thinks is going to spark him to be able to start getting that launch angle up and hitting the ball in the air a little bit more. So hopefully the Juan Soto owners can see that type of second half from him. Another guy that I saw that was towards the top of your model here was Christian Yelich, who right now you had projected about 35 home runs. I don't know if it's his back. I don't know if it's just that the rest of the lineup not being great around him. He's pressing him, or is there anybody else in your model that you obviously predicted that you think is going to have a big second half?
Yeah, I mean, with Yelich, it's so disappointing. I mean, I think everybody projected him for something great. The funny thing is, he's hitting 241 this year, but he also has a 342 BABIP. A 342 BABIP is typically somebody who's extremely lucky. Like the theory behind BABIP, for those who don't know, is it means batting average on balls in play, and the idea is, you can't really control that much on if the ball goes in play. If it's not a homer, it's not a strikeout. Usually just by chances, it'll get a hit 30% of the time. Your batting average should be 300. Now, if you're a little bit faster player, you have a little bit more speed, you'll beat out some ground balls. So maybe your batting average balls in play should be 320, right? If you're a slow guy, maybe it's 280. But the major league average is around 300. Yelich is right now 342, which would generally mean it's lucky. So if your BABIP is higher than that 300, if you're not fast, it generally means that you're very lucky. Like the ball's been finding the holes, and that's why you're batting average. So it's one statistic I use to see whether a person's lucky. If you have a 210 BABIP, it means you've been very unlucky. Your balls have just been going right to the third baseman, right to the second baseman, and it's not really your fault. You should expect better play. 342 usually would mean he's very lucky, but his career BABIP has been 354. So he's a fast guy who gets on. So actually, he has been unlucky according to his own worth. With Yelich, he's not the player anymore that he was in 2018 to 2019. You mentioned the injuries. I can't tell you exactly if that's it. My guess is that it hinders it somewhat. Rest of season, I'm projecting 12 homers, let's say. I think he's more of a 25 home run player these days, which actually is what he did in the first half. He hit 12 homers. So I think you're pretty much going to get more of the same, probably a little bit better batting average. Will he steal? I don't know. That all depends on his health. That's what I would say about him.
He's been such a frustrating player over the last couple seasons. When he broke out, he was winning people leagues. And then the last couple of years, I think people have been really drafting him, end of the first round, second round, hoping for similar production. And it's been really weighing down fantasy teams. I know Doc's in that situation right now.
Yeah, call me out.
I am also curious. Obviously, you do pitching as well. On the pitching side, you have Aaron Nola with a mid-threes ERA for this season, which actually lines up with his FIP right now, even though his ERA is in the mid-fours. You also have Patrick Corbin with a sub-4 ERA and about a K per 9 per inning. I want to start on those two guys first. Do you see second halves for those guys to have them kind of bring their ERAs down and stabilize to what you expect of them? Or do you think that they're not the pitcher that we expected beginning of the season?
Yeah, I have different stories with the different pitchers. I mean, Aaron Nola, we mentioned the BABIP. His BABIP is 331. So for hitters, a high BABIP would mean lucky. For pitchers, a high BABIP means unlucky. The balls are it, but it could mean unlucky, or it also could mean that your defense stinks, right? If your defense doesn't make your plays, that'll also increase the BABIP. Happens to be that Philadelphia is a very crappy fielding team. They have committed the 10th most errors in baseball this season. So I would actually say that his expected BABIP should be a little bit higher than 300. But yeah, he's been a little bit unlucky. I mean, if you look at some of the estimator metrics like FIP or Sierra, they show a mid to low threes ERA. I think going forward, you can predict somewhere between 3.5, maybe 3.7 ERA going forward. I don't worry about Nola. Nola is top notch. His strikeout rate this year is fantastic. It's almost 30%, which is higher than he's actually been doing his whole career. So I don't worry about him. Patrick Corbin is interesting because he's somebody that my model actually projected better than most others. I was surprised because I do not like Patrick Corbin. He's one of the players that I look at him and I say, I don't want to draft him. His last year, his swinging strike rate went from 15% down to 10%. It was 15% in his good days and then 10%. That's a big drop in swinging strike rate. And I thought that going to this year, that
Mm-hmm.
foretold a story of the league is catching to him. Patrick Corbin is a guy that he changed his pitch mix. His best pitch was the slider, and he basically decided, you know what? My slider's good. Let's just throw more of it.
Yeah.
And I often use the term Corbinized to mean when you have something good, just keep doing it. But I think that the league might have caught up to the pitch mix. I think the league might recognize him too much and probably caught on to some technical issues there.
Yeah, I know. I guess StreamYard's acting weird, but hopefully.
All right. But I was saying that they probably caught up to him, and they're not being fooled as much. I mean, on his contact rate is up, so people are actually hitting his outside pitches. So Corbin, whatever the projections say, I would give it a tad higher. Will he be a 5 ERA guy? Probably not, but you're going to have a higher than a 4 ERA guy for the rest of the season, and his whip is terrible. If you play Roto, it's just a whip that you do not want to use. So I have no interest in rostering Patrick Corbin.
No, I think it's kind of interesting. And this isn't Patrick Corbin related, but I was watching the All-Star game the other day, and when they mic'd up Freddie Freeman, and they were saying, oh, who am I going to face in the bottom in the second? And they're like, oh, you're going to face Kyle Gibson. He's like, oh, man, I've never seen his stuff. Like, I don't know what to expect. And I feel like Patrick Corbin playing in the NL his entire career with the Diamondbacks and then with the Nationals, people have seen his stuff multiple times, especially that slider, if you know the movement or if you know exactly kind of the speed variances he has. So I feel like hitters that have seen him multiple times throughout the years now are starting to catch up because he's facing the same guys over and over.
Well, that's the debate of, if you have a very long matchup history between hitters and pitchers, who does the advantage go? Is it hitters because you can recognize pitchers, or is it pitchers because you know how to get the guy out, right? There's a debate. I haven't seen any evidence of anything strong either way. I've seen many examples of pitcher gains and the hitter gains. I would think that it would help the hitters more, especially a pitcher who's a little bit further along in his career. Like Patrick Corbin's already 31 years old, so he's getting a little bit up there. But yeah, that's the age-old debate as to whether. Certainly, if you've never seen a guy for the first time, that might be a problem because you don't know what to guess. Like player like Joey Votto do so well because he's thinking every pitch. Am I going to get the fastball? Am I going to get the curveball? You can even see him talking to himself. And it's about guessing what they're going to throw. And if you know what they're going to throw, you have a good idea. You have a much better chance of getting a hit. Certainly, if you've never seen somebody's stuff, I would think it'd be much harder to hit the ball.
Yeah, and I agree. And again, with Patrick Corbin, I was also wondering, I wrote an article on him in the offseason, and I said if that velocity stays down, at 89, 90, that the speed difference between his slider and his fastball is only going to work. It's going to make it a lot harder for him. And
Right.
I think that was what people were also scared of this offseason going into it. And again, he's had some flashes, but it's definitely scary. So I think for right now, we definitely are out on Patrick Corbin. Let's talk about somebody that Doc foreshadowed. Let's talk about Kyle Gibson, who you have and again, this is obviously before the season started, but according to your projection before the season, you have big regression coming for him. Do you think that's going to hold up to where he will turn into that pitcher, or do you think that cutter, even though it has not been good, is enough to variable his pitch mix and keep the hitters guessing enough where he can sustain this the whole season?
I mean, certainly he's not going to finish with a 2.29 ERA that he's been doing. That's not going to happen. The strikeout rate is really been the same the past couple of years. So, those strikeouts, and he's not a fantastically great strikeout pitcher. I mean, he's got 88 strikeouts in 102 innings, which is not superb, right? It's okay. That's going to stay where it is. And in terms of the walks, he's actually been walking less players this year. His walk rate in the past has been 8-9, and he's trimmed it down below 8. It's to 7. So he's not putting on as many people. He's doing the same thing he's been doing, really. He's getting a little bit lucky with the BABIP. His BABIP is 254, and again, that's very lucky. So you're going to have that. The other, I'll mention another luck statistic, something called a strand rate. So for pitchers, and forget about the complications of how to calculate it, but for runners given up, there's a certain percentage of runners that score, right? Sometimes you leave one person on base, two people on base, sometimes they score. The about 75% of runners are stranded on base. They don't come home. They get on base, but they don't come home. If your strand rate is pretty low for a pitcher, that means that you're randomly giving up more hits. They're stringing hits against you. It's not random. If your strand rate is high, it means you're super splitting them up. His strand rate is pretty high. It's at 84%, which is 10% above the league average. So you're going to see more runners, more hits being strung together. You'll see that come through. You'll see more hits in general because his BABIP is low. So I do not believe in Kyle Gibson for that. If I had to pick, would I pick a 4.82 ERA, which is what ATC had beginning of the season? No, but I think we're talking somewhere between 4.25 and 4.5 going forward. Like, I don't have the confidence in him doing that. But kudos to him, and he does have length, right? He does pitch a lot of innings. So the good thing about him, I said bad, but the good thing about him is he gives you length of innings. I mean, he's gotten to over 150 innings plenty of times in his career. He's gotten almost to 200 innings. He got like 194 or higher 3 times in his career. In today's day and age, the pitchers with the more innings per start, they are going to stay in longer, and they have the chance to win games. Like, the longer you stay in, if your team is ahead and you're pitching, you can get a win. So for rotisserie leagues that have wins as a possibility, much, much better. For points leagues, he's actually really good. He's much better than you would think, because a lot of innings count towards points, right? Just if you actually just took pitchers in a points league that pitched a lot of innings, you'd be doing great. Last year, Lance Lynn led the league in innings. You know who number 2 was? It was German Marquez. In all my points leagues, I've drafted German Marquez because he gives you the length, he gives you the innings. So Kyle Gibson will give you that. So he is good for a lot of situations, but just don't expect the earned runs to stay this low. That's just not happening.
And you would, if you have Kyle Gibson on your team and you're in any type of league that does trades, you would try to trade him right now if you could.
I mean, it depends on what you can get. If you think you can get somebody worth more in a trade, sure. I mean, trading is difficult. He's probably somebody that you'd have to package with somebody. Oh, and by the way, I'll give you a pitching upgrade, Kyle Gibson, to somebody else, and where they're perceiving it as a pitching upgrade where it's not. I
like the terminology of it. Sell them on it with that. I like it. Let's talk about the last thing we'll get to in this main segment here. Let's talk about your 3 bold predictions for the second half. It's nothing to do with your projection system, nothing to do with, first halves necessarily, but in your gut, what are 3 bold predictions you think are going to happen in this second half?
We're talking for fantasy or anything in baseball, or maybe some of both.
Let's say people, I guess, listen mostly for fantasy, so that, but if you have a just baseball one in general, you really want to say, you can definitely use that as well.
Okay, sure. Let's do a little bit of both. So let's do. I'm a Met fan, so let's do Edwin Diaz. I think Edwin Diaz ends up as the majors saves leader. That's my bold prediction.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. He's Melanson. Everybody's on top of him, but Diaz is the guy. He's going to be there all year. Mets are a good team. He has not given up a home run all season. His BABIP has been 350, which is incredibly high for a pitcher. I think he stays with the job, locks it down, and even gets better as we get on. So that's my number one bold prediction. Edwin Diaz finishes the season as the leader in saves. Let's do a trade one. All right, I'm a Mets fan, so let's do this. I boldly predict that 2 of the next 3 people, will be on the Mets by the end of the season traded. And I'll attribute this bold prediction to my podcast partner Ruven Guy, Chris Bryant, Craig Kimbrell, Kyle Hendricks. I predict that the Cubs will trade at least 2 of the 3 to the Mets.
Wow. Okay.
Who do the Mets give up in return?
Probably Ronnie Mauricio and maybe Alvarez. We'll see.
Okay.
You think Alvarez would be in that deal? I mean, I've just heard nothing about Alvarez all weekend.
I mean, if you're signing Bryant and Hendricks, what are you gonna trade? Catching prospects are so fickle, and the Mets just signed McCann to a 4-year deal. So, if you're talking a window of 4 years, I mean, don't use that to get who you need to win now. So I can see that happening. And Mauricio, the Mets are going to trade him eventually because they have a shortstop in Lindor who they've been paying for the next 10 years. So he's going to be in a trade sometime. Might as well do it and get some really good guns.
I like it. No, I could see that happening. You're right with the 4-year thing with McCann and Lindor there. Yeah, I mean, and it would take good prospects to get. I know Chris Bryant's a free agent after this year, but isn't Hendricks signed for a decent, not too expensive salary over the next couple of years?
Yeah. So one of the things that the Mets got when they signed Lindor, when they traded for Lindor, I should say, is they got Carrasco, who also, comes in at a decent salary for the next couple of years. So the Mets like that trade. It's not just a rental, but you're also getting something in the package. And, you're willing to trade you're willing to trade the prospect, but you're getting something in return.
Right. No, I like it. I could see it. What's your third one?
Let's do a couple of team ones that for the year. How about the Brewers win the pennant?
I have the Reds winning the division. That's one of mine. We'll have to see about that. 4 games behind, they can do it.
The Brewers have the pitching, that's for sure. I mean, can you imagine if you play them in the playoffs? You got to face Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta in a series. That's nuts.
Correct. So when you get to the playoffs, does your 5th starter matter? No. So, if you're talking about win expectancy in a playoff game, it's going to be higher for the Brewers. So once the Brewers get to the playoffs, I think they have a better chance than anyone because their top of the rotation is so fantastic. Their closer is fantastic. Their hitting has been disastrous this year, but that's going to regress up. Yelich, maybe he'll turn it around. Kane, he'll get healthier. Maybe they'll make a trade and get a bat. They just did make a trade and get Rowdy Tellez. You never know. I think that because of all those ingredients, I'm going to give a slight edge to the Brewers to do that. And I'll also predict that the Athletics will win the AL West. I think Houston will collapse, or at least not collapse to miss that in the playoffs, still at least collapse and lose the division.
I mean, it does seem like that they're playing way over. I mean, Houston's a good team, but they are on some type of streak right now. So it does seem like they got to come crashing down to earth at some point, especially because their pitching hasn't been great. I mean, Greinke just got hurt. Framber Valdez is starting to get lit up recently. I love Luis Garcia, but he's going to probably be on an innings limit. So I mean, there's definitely some questions in that rotation for some kind of regression there. So I like that call.
Bang on the trash can. I'll be right.
Yeah.
Can I get one of my bold predictions?
Yeah, I was going to say, Doc, if you have, go ahead. You can spit some of yours if you got them.
You know what? Mine are going to be quick. I have the Reds winning the division. They're 4 games behind the Brewers right now. Luis Castillo's been pitching well. They have very good hitting. I think Aroldis Chapman loses his closer job. He's given up earned runs in 4 out of his last 6 outings. In that time, 4.1 innings pitched.
Is that bold though? I mean, it's been heavily talked about. The Yankees.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's was viewed as a dominant closer.
What do you consider bold?
I mean, I feel like it's
a bold prediction.
So for me,
I'll give you my last one, which I think.
Go ahead.
Trey Turner hits for the cycle, giving him 4 in his career, which is the most ever for an MLB player.
I like that.
That one's, I mean, that would be a second in a season, which is definitely a lot. So, the Chapman thing,
yeah,
for me, with it being like a bold, and maybe you guys differ, is something that I haven't heard anywhere. I've been here. I mean, you turn on MLB Network, you listen to other podcasts, people float that idea around.
Some of us don't have cable, David. Okay, we don't hear it on MLB Network.
I mean, it's bold in the sense that of it's Chapman, guys, and the Yankees. He always does this every year. There's some rough patch. I just had catcher Devin Mesoraco on my show the other day, and he caught him, and he's like, guys, don't worry about Chapman. He does this every year. He'll get right. I talk about the bold, and I always write an article at the beginning of the year called Bold Predictions, and my definition is 10 to 30% likely. Like if you do anything, better than that, then if you do something that's a more of a probable chance, that's not bold enough. So Chapman losing the closer job, I don't know. I think that's like 50-50, or it's 40% or something. So maybe that's a little bit too much. But like some of the ones that I gave with this trade will happen, that's probably even too bold. I mean, that's like a 5% chance, 3% chance. Two guys actually traded. I mean, that's crazy if I get that right. But you're the sweet spot. I like the Trey Turner one. I like that. That's really awesome.
That's good. I feel like you gotta tweet out that Mets Cubs trade, and then if it does hit, you can quote tweet it and be like, yeah. I said
it's funny.
This.
I wrote an article last year, and I made one prediction as to the World Series, and I said it's going to be the Dodgers over the Rays in 6 games. I actually wrote that in an article, and there you go.
Wow.
It's called being lucky, not good.
But I mean, hey, you know what? That's when you can take your victory laps, even if it's luck. It's like you still called it regardless. So I love it. Well, let's get to the bold part of the next segment here, the next part of the show. And that's going to be our question of the week. All right. So our question of the week.
You play that again? That was fun.
Hey, you wanted the Inception music? Hold on.
Yeah, play it again.
It's a bold noise for a bold segment. Our question of the week, of course, is sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Triple Play Fantasy is an official affiliate to Monkey Knife Fight, the fastest growing sports betting site in the United States. Use promo code Triple Play and get up to $50 of your deposit match when you become a new user and you use that code. Doc, assuming you and Brad at some point are going to start doing the shows again at some point.
Bro, let me get a house first and I'll be good.
Yeah,
it's going to happen soon.
Some point the shows will be back. They give you their picks for some of the gaming landscape picks there. So our question this week, Doc came up with, which player do you wish participated in the home run derby but didn't? So I will throw a twist in here. You can either do this year or just in general, if there's somebody in the past that, like people about LeBron and the dunk contest that never happened. So if there's a player like that you also want to throw in, you can as well. So Ariel, you're the guest. We'll go to you first. Who's that player for you?
Well, first of all, Eric, what is the flag in the back? What's the significance of that?
It's Colorado. One of my roommates, his parents live there, so
Eric is currently in between leases, so he's been crashing on his couch. I
got a bed now, but we also have Maryland next to it, so we're representing 2 states.
All right. I've been staring at this
Eric, show Ariel your the other flag that you have.
That is the Maryland one.
No. Where's the Israel flag?
Oh, it's down in the basement. Our one of our best friends is Jewish, so we put 2 of his like funny pictures he has on the Israel flag. It's one of the best gifts ever.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Israel's in the Olympics, so you can't discount them for baseball, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Not bad. All right, so who do I want in the home run derby? Well, I mean, from real players that are really, I mean, Vlad. Why wasn't Vlad in the home run derby this year? He had a crazy showing 2 years ago, and if I had to pick somebody else to compete, why not Vladimir Guerrero Sr.? Let's see, junior versus senior, right? Like I can do that, right? Why not?
Yeah.
So let's those are my 2 that I'd like to see compete head to head, and we'll throw in Griffey. I mean, he's done it before, but there's nobody who better represented the backwards cap and made that a thing all of his own. And and Griffey is not a guy who's showy, flashy. I'm cool. He is cool. He just played it there, made it his thing, didn't make a big deal, and he struts around and just such a modest person. Love Griffey, love everything about him, and so let's go with those three competing.
I'm taking from this segment that they need to make a senior home run derby and have retired players that want to hit in it can do a senior derby. They can have
the fence a little bit. Bring in the fence a little bit, like they do with the celebrity game.
Oh yeah, can I say something about that? That is the most unwatchable hour of television of the entire year. Like, I'd rather watch Teletubbies. And Teletubbies, if you ever watched it, which I have no idea why I did, I guess I had kids or something. But Teletubbies, they do a whole segment, and then they repeat the entire segment. Like they have like 10 minutes worth of video, and then they repeat the entire 10-minute stretch of video back to back. I don't understand why any kid of any age wouldn't be like, "What the heck is this?" Like, I've seen this already. But I would rather watch that same segment 4 times than watch that celebrity tournament. I mean, listen, my baseball team can beat DJ Metcalf and whoever they faced that day. That there's a pop up right here, and they're just looking, and it just falls right in front of them, and that happened like 25 times. Like,
didn't DJ Metcalf strike out 2 times?
Yes, right. I mean, maybe I strike out twice in a season, and that's with straight fast pitching. I can't fathom why anybody wants to watch this. They really made such a joke of this, and then they have the Miz, who's not even playing. And what the hell is he doing there? He's not playing. He's just here to cause confusion. Like it's a WWE match. It's not a baseball game. So you can get rid of that, ESPN, please.
I love it. Well, again, get rid of that. Have retired players come back for a modified home run derby. Have Vlad Sr. Have like Adam Dunn, Paul Konerko. Like I would love to see all these guys come back, see if they could still hit.
Love it.
Doc, what about you? Do you have a pick?
So I know that he wouldn't have won it. I would have loved to see Nelson Cruz compete this year. Just the guy that defies father time, going into a competition with all these young people and just having the stamina to beat them, I feel like would have been amazing. But I know there's no way he would have done it.
I'm going to throw a name in here. Then I have to give credit to who was on last week. It was Josh St. Marie, UT streamer, and he threw this name out there, and I want to throw this name again. Chris Carter.
Chris V Carter or Chris W Carter? Or the
one that struck out like 40% of the time or whatever it was.
Chris V Carter, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, someone that strikes out that much, I would just love to see them in a home run derby just to see how well they do, because they don't have to worry about missing the pitch and just that much power. Just take a guy that has like a 40% strikeout rate, or more realistically, someone like a high 30% strikeout rate, and throw them in the home run derby where they don't have to worry about missing, and then see how well they do. I think that'd be awesome.
I'd like to see? I'd like to see a pitching derby where you take like and they have this in between innings in minor league games. Actually, I got my son to get up on the field, and they have like a whole cardboard thing, and they have like a circle here, and if you throw the ball in the circle, you win the prize. They should do that. They should have like a strike zone, and like literally they put up a circle here, and the pitcher has to hit that, and you see how many, give him 10 shots and see how many he gets through, and then you have the same competition. Why not with pitching, right? It's like a skills competition. They have it in hockey where you got to shoot a certain part of the goal. They should do the same thing.
I like it.
You know what? I'm taking from all this conversation, I think we could rewrite the All-Star Weekend and make it a lot better than what it is right now.
Let's just be the new commissioners instead of Manfred.
You couldn't do much worse.
Well, you could do worse, but there's a lot of things that I might do better. Listen, it's better than the All-Star game ending in a tie. I remember that year with Bud Selig coming on the field, and that's it, we're going to stop playing, and that was just horrific. I mean, I remember the days where I'm old enough to remember the days where guys who started finished the game. I remember Tony Gwynn going 5 for 5 in the All-Star game, and he stayed in the whole game, and he won it in the 10th inning. Like that's dedication. It's a real game to some people,
Yeah, no, it's because you never see anybody get more than like 2 at-bats before all the subs start coming in. So it's like whoever hits the game-winning home run is the one that gets it, or whoever pitches and gets the win in a 1-0 game gets the MVP.
I'm fine with pitchers going 3-4 innings. Like, why not? I want to see a real game. I don't just want to see a bunch of smattering of players in here. Like, I like to see good competition, and I like to have the NL win. I mean, it's crazy how many times the AL has beaten the NL in this competition that theoretically should be even, right?
I wrote it down last week. It was something ridiculous. Like I think the AL's won like 22 of the last like 25 or 26 times. It's something crazy like that. It's pretty crazy. But let's get to the last segment of the night or the afternoon. I'm used to saying the night, the afternoon, and it's going to be the game of the week.
It's time to do.
All right. So Doc is hosting the game this week. So Ariel, me and you are going head to head. If I'm letting you know if I win, this is going on my resume. So
oh my God, you most overused line of David.
So go ahead, Doc. What are we playing?
So this game's going to be All-Star themed edition, and it's something that we've done a lot of times. It's kind of that leading off concept from Stump the Schwab. So I'm going to give you a topic. For example, the last 10 guys to bat lead off for the AL in the All-Star game. That's not one. But you guys would take turns naming. Whoever gets one wrong first or repeats an answer is out. I have 4 and then a tiebreaker. So if somebody gets to 3 first, the game is over. Sound good?
All right.
Dear Lord, I'm going to lose this one. Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. So the first one, name the last 8 different players to win the home run derby. And David, we're going to start with you.
All right, the last 8, so I'll start with Pete Alonso.
All right, he's won the most 2 recent.
I don't have to name him in a row, right?
No, you can just name one person that's won in the last 8, and I'll give you a hint. It dates back to 2011. So between 2011 and to now, there have been 8 different ones.
Okay. I know a couple of oddball ones, so I'll save. I'll do Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge won in 2017. Back to David.
I will say Justin Morton. Oh no. I didn't finish the sentence because he won before 2011. I will say
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cody
All
Bellinger.
Right. Incorrect.
Cody
Ariel, do you have
No.
one?
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper won in 2018.
Cespedes twice. Cespedes twice.
Yep. Cespedes.
I remember Todd Frazier winning. That was the first one they had with this format.
Todd Frazier, Stanton, Fielder, and Cano.
Oh, I was actually thinking Stanton. So you know what, Ariel, you're like in White Man Can't Jump when you act like that you're really bad at basketball, and then all of a sudden when you get on the court, you're just tearing it up. Right? You're like, oh, I'm going to lose these games, and you have all 8 of them listed in your head.
I happen to know this one, but I remember all the guys since the new format started. So
okay.
All right. So the next one, we're going to go to teams or ballparks that have hosted it. So the last 8 recent cities, team names, ballparks, whatever you want to name to host the All-Star game. So Ariel, we'll start with you on this one.
Okay, and I can name Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay, Colorado.
All right, David, to you.
Washington.
There you go, Washington in 2018.
Field. No?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Citi Field.
Yep, Citi Field in 2013.
Yes.
Didn't the Dodgers host it recently?
The Dodgers did not.
What?
So Ariel
Padres hosted? Padres?
It was Padres in 2016. Yep. The other ones, the Indians held it in 2019. Right. The Marlins in 2017. The Reds in 2015. Yeah. Dude, I'm surprised you didn't say the Twins. They had it in 2014.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. If I'd thought about it, I would have been able to think of them.
All right. So Ariel has 2. If he wins this next category, the game is over. David, we're starting with you. It's the last 8 pitchers to start an All-Star game for the AL. I'll give you a hint. The most recent one is this year, and it dates back to 2010.
Okay.
You go first?
Yeah, I get this one first. Shohei Ohtani.
Ohtani, most recent. Ariel, do you?
I'm going to gamble on Zach Greinke did.
Zach Greinke did not. So David wins that category. Some other ones, Verlander in 2019. Chris Sale, 2018, 2017, and 2016. Dallas Keuchel, Felix Hernandez, Max Scherzer, Jared Weaver, and David Price.
Scherzer. Okay.
So 2-1.
I didn't get shut out. That's what we wanted.
Now we're going to the NL side. So it goes from this year, obviously 2021, dating back to 2011. Ariel, you're first.
Okay, let's go with Kershaw.
Kershaw. surprisingly, has not started.
Really?
Oh, I was
Yeah.
gonna say him. Oh man. Oh,
Should I have picked?
Scherzer.
I should have picked Scherzer, right?
David, are you saying Scherzer?
Yeah, Max Scherzer. He started this year.
Yep. So Scherzer is the answer. The other ones, Ryu in 2019, Johnny Cueto 2016, Zach Greinke did it for the NL in 2015, Adam Wainwright, Matt Harvey, Matt Cain, and Roy Halladay. So we're at 2-2 now.
Surprised that
What?
Kershaw never did it. He's been the best pitcher in baseball.
He seemed like the biggest easy one in the bank.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I would have gone with who threw it most recent. So this is what we're gonna do for a tiebreaker. You guys need to name one of the last 8 or the last 7 All-Star Game MVPs, because I'm not gonna say Vlad Jr. So we have 7 different players from 2012 to 2019 that have won an All-Star Game MVP. So what I'm gonna have you do, I'm gonna tell you the positions that they've played, and you have to buzz in, and whoever gets one right first wins the game. Sound good?
And you just buzzed in with your name.
Yep, you buzz in with your name. So I'm going to tell you the positions.
But buzz in how? What?
Just say your name, and you'll.
Yep. But I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you the positions they've played first.
Okay.
First base, pitcher, out. All right, Ariel.
Well, I'm sorry. I can name a first baseman.
Yeah, one that is but no, it's not Vlad Jr. So an All-Star Game MVP.
Prince Fielder.
Prince Fielder did not win an All-Star Game MVP in the last 7.
So all right.
Really?
So David, you get the opportunity to hear the rest because I didn't finish. So we have first base, we have pitcher, we have outfield, we have another first base.
Pitcher, did Madison Bumgarner win it?
He did not.
Oh,
So
dang.
it is back open. And let me finish. So we have a first base, a pitcher.
All right. I got the
outfield.
other one. First base. Eric
Okay.
Hosmer.
Eric Hosmer won in 2016 with the
Oh
Royals.
my God.
So Ariel wins the game. The other ones, Shane Bieber in 2019, Bregman the year before.
Trout was a couple times.
Trout in 2013 and 2014. Robinson Cano, the cheater, in 2017. Rivera in 2013 and Miguel Cabrera in 2012.
I should have thought of Rivera because it was in New York and he won it the year in New York because he closed the game. I should have thought of that.
That's why I didn't say relief pitcher, because that would have been way too obvious.
You're right. Well, I will give Ariel his I thought I was going to make this comeback and give him one of the worst losses in triple play.
Gosh,
game
I love that
history.
you just ripped David's heart out. It's amazing.
But on that note, we're going to close out the show. Ariel, I want to thank you again so much for coming on tonight. It was, again, this afternoon. I'm so used to saying tonight. It was an absolute blast for us. So we really appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure. This was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much.
Of course. And anything you would like to plug to our audience before you go, anything you're working on, anything that, writing or podcasting, any of that good stuff?
Yeah, you can check out our Beat the Shift podcast. It's on Fangraphs. You can get it on any podcast aggregator. Beat the Shift. We just had on Howard Johnson last night talking about days with the Mets and a lot of assorted things. Check that out. And we do a lot of great fantasy stuff. We had Rob Silver on the night before. Great fantasy discussion. We had Paul Sporer, Justin Mason the week before. A lot of great guests planned for the next coming weeks. So check that out, and all my stuff over at Fangraphs. Yeah.
That's perfect. He's a great follow. He's a great dude in general. Make sure you follow one of the smartest guys in the fantasy baseball industry. That is Ariel Cohen. Next week, we're going to be doing some more fun baseball discussion with Al Melchior, who is a returning guest. Very great guy. It should be a fun show. Until then, everyone stay safe out there. Enjoy another week of baseball. And we're going to make like a bread truck and haul